Making $100,000 a year should feel like you made it, but for a growing number of Americans, it feels like nothing changed. The money comes in, and somehow it disappears just as fast. No real savings, no real freedom, just a higher cost of living. If you want to understand where it all goes and how to break out of it, like the video and subscribe. A $100,000 salary is supposed to mean something in America. It is the number people picture when they think about finally making it. Not rich, but stable. Not struggling, but secure. It is the milestone that promises breathing room. For years, that number sits in the distance. You imagine what life will feel like when you reach it. Less stress, more freedom, the ability to save, invest, and actually move forward. And then, it happens. You cross 6 figures. But something does not match the expectation. The stress does not disappear. The sense of being behind does not go away. In some cases, it feels exactly the same. Bills still feel heavy. Credit card balances are still there. Saving feels slower than it should. This is where the confusion starts. Because on paper, everything looks right. Then reality begins to fill in the gaps. In many American cities, a large portion of that income is already spoken for. Rent alone can take a significant share before anything else is considered. Then healthcare premiums are deducted from your paycheck. Student loan payments continue in the background, even at higher incomes. What looked like a big number starts shrinking quickly. Then something more subtle takes over. As income rises, expectations rise with it. You move into a better place because it feels appropriate now. You upgrade your car because it fits your new level. You spend more on convenience because your time feels more valuable. Eating out becomes normal. Small upgrades start stacking on top of each other. None of it feels excessive. It feels like progress. But these changes do something important. They raise your baseline. The life that once felt like a luxury becomes your new normal. And once it becomes normal, it is very hard to reverse. Then there is another layer that most people do not notice. Spending is not just about comfort. It is about identity. In high-income environments, people look around and adjust. What your peers do starts to feel like the standard. The way they live becomes the reference point, and without realizing it, you begin matching it. Better clothes, better experiences, better everything. Not because you need it, but because it feels expected. And slowly, the increase in income gets absorbed. This is the moment where the discomfort begins to grow. Because if $100,000 is not creating space, then something is off. And the question starts to form. If this level is not enough, then what actually is? Kai earns around $100,000 a year. Stable job, clear career path. Everything looks right on paper. This is the level that is supposed to create momentum. The expectation is simple. Life should start opening up from here. At first, it feels like it does. This is the arrival phase. Kai moves into a better apartment. Not excessive, just a place that matches the new income. The neighborhood improves. The space feels more comfortable. Then spending starts to shift. More convenience, more dining out, better clothes, small upgrades that reflect the new level. None of it feels irresponsible. It feels like success finally showing up in real life. Then the pattern continues. This is the absorption phase. The higher income starts getting distributed across everything. Rent increases. Recurring expenses expand. Subscriptions, services, travel, daily spending. Each decision is small on its own, but together they reshape the entire budget. The extra money does not sit still. It gets assigned. And there is another layer that makes this worse. As income rises, a larger portion of it is taxed at higher rates. The increase in take-home pay is smaller than expected. What looks like a big jump in salary turns into a much smaller increase in usable money. So while expenses are rising quickly, the actual cash available is not rising at the same speed. That gap starts to matter. Then comes the identity trap. Kai is now surrounded by people earning similar incomes, sometimes more. The environment shifts. What used to feel like a luxury now feels normal. What used to feel expensive now feels expected. Spending is no longer just about comfort. It becomes part of identity. Keeping up starts to feel necessary. Cutting back feels like moving backward. And the system reinforces this behavior. In high-cost cities, everything is expensive by default. Housing, food, transportation. Networking culture adds another layer. Appearances start to matter for career growth. The way you live becomes part of how you are perceived. So the spending continues. Not because it is reckless, but because it feels required to stay in place. And then something starts to feel off. This is the stagnation realization. Kai looks at the numbers again. Income has increased. That part is clear, but savings have not followed the same path. Investments are inconsistent. Net worth is growing, but slowly. Cash flow feels tighter than it should. There is always something taking the money. And this is the moment that does not make sense at first. A higher income was supposed to create progress. Instead, it created a more expensive version of the same situation. The pressure did not disappear. It just scaled up. And this is where the real question begins. Because the problem is not how much much Kai earns. It is everything built around that income. A high salary is not wealth. It is an opportunity, and it is an opportunity that gets wasted more often than people realize. Because income on its own does not change anything. It only creates potential. What matters is what remains after everything is paid. That is the real equation. Wealth is built from the gap between what you earn and what your life requires, not from the size of your paycheck. And this is where the perspective needs to shift. Being a high earner is not valuable because of the lifestyle it can support. It is valuable because of the speed at which it can build assets when controlled. That is the part most people miss. The idea of high earner, not rich yet, sounds temporary. It sounds like a phase that fixes itself with time, but it does not. It is a pattern, and patterns do not change unless something interrupts them. Kai did not fail by earning more. Kai failed by allowing expenses to rise at the same pace. Every increase in income was matched by an increase in lifestyle. No space was created. No gap was protected. Every dollar had a destination before it even arrived. So nothing accumulated. The shift is not complicated, but it is uncomfortable. Lifestyle growth has to be capped below income growth. Not extreme cuts, not removing everything that makes life enjoyable, but resisting the automatic upgrades that come with higher income. Because every upgrade that becomes permanent turns into a future obligation. Instead, that income needs direction. Part of it moves into systems that do not increase your cost of living. A 401k or a Roth IRA captures income before it turns into spending. It lowers the pressure today and builds stability for later. Another part builds liquidity, accessible savings that create distance from each paycheck. That distance changes everything. It turns urgent decisions into controlled ones, and most importantly, it means avoiding the habit of turning flexible income into fixed costs, because fixed costs are what lock you in. Kai starts to adjust. The upgrades slow down. Expenses stop rising. Income continues to grow, but this time it is not absorbed. The gap finally appears. And once that gap exists, everything changes. Savings begin to build with consistency. Investments become automatic instead of occasional. Pressure starts to fade because the system is no longer fragile. The same income that once felt tight now starts creating real progress. Nothing about the salary changed. What changed was what happened to it. The problem was never that 100,000 was too little. It was that every dollar was already spent before it had a chance to build anything.